Hi everybody, welcome to Convertible Conversations today. We're in a little 6-day series where we're talking about the definition of grace being God's unconditional love in action for everyone. And that's how God has always existed and always related to everyone since before creation, and God has never changed. The challenge is most people don't know that. My goal in this little series, and really in all of life, is to help us all learn how to no longer have racism or hatred or bigotry or elitism or supremacy or anger or riots or those types of things. Those are all caused by sin. The biblical word sin, which probably doesn't mean what you and I were taught when we were growing up. It actually means missing the mark, falling short of God's glory, which is God's grace. Now, what was the very first sin? How did that affect us? What does it have to do with us today? And what did God do about it? What was the first sin? My understanding was when the first man and woman were created and they were here, there was no good or evil. There was only love. They existed in total oneness relationship with God. There was nothing good or bad. I mean, it was all just based on love. Actually, their first mistake, their first falling short, if you will, was believing or deciding or judging that God was bad, that he wasn't good, that he was actually holding out on them. They were tempted, and the voice said to them, you know, God's holding out on you. He told you not to eat from this tree because if you do, you'll become like God. And you know the difference between good and evil. And so they came to the conclusion, they believed the lie that God was bad, that he was holding out on them. And they judged God as not being totally good for everyone. I believe that's the root of all those bad things that we see in life today that have caused the riots, racism, hatred, bigotry, and all of that. The root sin of that is believing that God favors some people, but not others. That God is not totally good for everyone. And Adam and Eve decided that God was holding out on them, so they judged him. Judging God as not being good for everyone was not only the first sin, but that's what people do today. And as a result of what happened with the first couple, their minds became darkened, and everybody's minds were darkened after that until Jesus came 2,000 years ago and actually took away that original sin, if you want to call that. He came and took away the sin of the world. He lifted it up off of people. He killed it. And he made us all new creations that are perfectly right with him without sin. He made all of us that way, every single person. But again, people don't know that. Now, in the riot situation here in our country, some people judge President Trump as good and all liberals as bad. Some people judge liberals as good and President Trump and everybody associated with him as bad. Now, it's fine, of course, to be involved in politics and to have different ideas about different political methods, different opinions and things like that, thinking that your way would be the best way to doing something. It's fine, of course, to have those opinions, but what God wants us to do is to work amicably together with those who disagree with us. And the worst thing we can do is to judge that a person who has different ideas than us is a bad person. When we do what the first couple did, judging God being bad, when we judge any person as being bad or good, our group's good, that group's bad, we're playing God. We're living from the tree of good and evil, which is the awful place to live from, instead of the tree of life, which is Jesus. To judge and say, well, God favors our group because we're right and we have the right opinions and the right beliefs, and he's going to punish that group that I've decided is bad, that's going back to the tree of good and evil. That's playing God. Fortunately, God doesn't judge us like that. Jesus, the tree of life, is unconditional love, and grace is God's unconditional love in action for everyone. God doesn't see us, all of us people, as, well, this group is good, that group's bad, I'm going to favor this group, I'm going to punish that group. You know, I mean, we've been taught in religion that God is going to punish our country or our city or whatever because so many people are doing bad things here. That's just not true. God's not in the punishing business to begin with. And God has already judged us all as right with him. And now he's living in each of us and working within each of us to bring about what he has in mind for each of us, which is the best for us. Jesus, God, is grace, love, unconditional love in action for everyone. Let me ask you, was Jesus good or evil? Well, you think, well, duh, Paul, obviously he was good. Well, what did the people at the time say? The religious leaders said he was evil. He was possessed by an evil spirit. The government, the Roman government that occupied Israel, said he was evil. He was causing riots and stuff. The people said, no, he's bad. Let's get rid of him. Let's kill him. See, people have opinions about things, which is great. Opinions about policies, ways about going things. But when you start judging a person as evil, good or bad, then we're playing God when we do that. Left unchecked, played out to the max, that's what brings about riots and fighting and killing. Judging, deciding what's good and evil is the root cause for all relationship problems. That's why we can't seem to get along. But there is an antidote for that. What God has for us is to see other people as God does, to see us all as children of God, to see all of us as made in his image and likeness, to see all of us as new creations, made new because of what Jesus did at the cross, and then to work to be, not work in our own effort, but to diligently let Jesus work as us, to see everyone as God does. Only then will there cease to be riots and hatred and bigotry and all of that kind of stuff. We may be a long way off from that, but we can certainly let Jesus do that in our life, in our family, in our neighborhood, in our city where we live. We can be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Some more on this tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.